The deception of diplomacy. The grand chamber of the Galactic Assembly hummed with the voices of 100 species. Crystalline light filtered through the transparent dome ceiling, casting prismatic patterns across the tiered seating where representatives from every corner of known space gathered. At the lowest tier, barely visible from the upper echelons where the ancient races sat, was the Earth delegation. Admiral Helena Chen stood with perfect posture, her dark blue uniform bearing minimal decorations despite her rank. Unlike the ornate regalia of the Vexari or the bioluminescent displays of the Meridian Collective, humans preferred subtlety. It was a characteristic that had earned them a reputation for humility, or as many secretly believed, weakness. The human delegation will now address the Assembly regarding the Proxima Centauri development rights, announced the moderator, a towering Nazurian whose translucent skin revealed the complex network of neural pathways beneath. Admiral Chen stepped forward, her movements measured and deliberate. At 53, her black hair was streaked with silver, and fine lines surrounded her eyes, signs of age that many species found primitive. Why wouldn't humans use genetic modification to preserve youth, as most advanced species did? Another indication of their technological backwardness, many assumed. Esteemed members of the Assembly, Chen began, her voice calm and measured. Earth extends its gratitude for the opportunity to participate in this discussion. While we had hoped to develop the outer planets of the Proxima system for humanitarian purposes, we respectfully withdraw our petition in light of the Vexari Dominion's claim. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Vexari delegation, positioned prominently in the third tier, exchanged looks of surprise before their leader, High Commander Vrax, leaned forward with a satisfied smile that revealed rows of serrated teeth. Earth continues to demonstrate wisdom in recognizing superior claims, Vrax announced, his translator converting the harsh clicks of his native tongue into the standardized galactic common. The Proxima system will serve the Dominion well. Chen bowed slightly, her expression revealing nothing. We look forward to maintaining peaceful relations. As the Earth delegation returned to their seats, Vrax turned to his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Krell. They surrender without even token resistance, he whispered, disabling his translator. Their ships are primitive, their weapons negligible. I've seen their military assessments, barely worth the designation. Krell nodded, though his four eyes narrowed slightly. Their behavior is consistent. 7 standard cycles in the Assembly, and they've never once shown aggression. Their diplomatic course is impressive, but they bring no military observers to negotiations. Because they have no military worth mentioning, Vrax replied dismissively. Their world was fractured into nation-states until mere centuries ago. Their children playing at galactic politics. From the upper tiers, another observer watched with greater interest. Kreth, senior intelligence analyst for the Cephalian Confederation, had been studying humans since their admission to the Assembly. Unlike the Vexari, who measured worth by military might, the Cephalians valued subtlety and misdirection, traits they suspected humans might share. When the session concluded, Kreth approached Admiral Chen in the antechamber, his gelatinous form shifting to a more humanoid shape out of courtesy. Admiral Chen, your restraint continues to impress, Kreth said, the translator rendering his vibrations into speech. Chen smiled warmly. Analyst Kreth, your attention honors us. The Vexari believe your withdrawal from Proxima indicates weakness. The Vexari believe what they wish to believe, Chen replied, her eyes briefly flickering to a small device on her wrist, a gesture so subtle most species would miss it. Earth has always valued peace above territorial expansion. Peace, Kreth repeated, the translator unable to capture the nuance in his tone. An admirable priority. As they parted ways, Kreth's suspicions deepened. In 7 cycles, humans had established trade relationships with 46 species, provided humanitarian aid to 17 worlds affected by natural disasters, and offered technological assistance in medical and agricultural fields. Yet they had never once revealed military capabilities, never participated in defense summits, never even displayed their ship's armaments. It was too perfect, too consistent. And Kreth had lived long enough to know that such consistency often masked something else entirely. 3 weeks after the assembly session, the Vexari Dominion began moving construction vessels into the Proxima system. Their massive terraforming ships took up positions around the 4th and 5th planets, rich in rare minerals and suitable for Vexari colonization with minimal adjustment. On Earth, in the underground complex beneath the North American continent, Admiral Chen stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her uniform now bearing full military insignia. "The Vexari have taken the bait," she reported, gesturing to the holographic display showing the Dominion fleet movements. 17 capital ships, 32 support vessels, approximately 20,000 personnel. General Takahashi, head of strategic operations, nodded approvingly. "Are the Whispers in position?" "Deployed 3 years ago," Chen confirmed. "Silent mode, powered down to minimal life support. The Vexari scans haven't detected them." The council chamber was austere compared to the opulence of the Galactic Assembly. No ornate decorations, no displays of wealth or power, just functionality and purpose. The 12 members of the council represented Earth's unified military command, established after first contact, proved that humanity was not alone in the cosmos. "And our assets within the system?" asked Admiral Okafor, her Nigerian accent still evident despite decades away from Earth. Chen's expression remained neutral. "The mining stations have been evacuated under the guise of routine maintenance. The observer satellites have been reconfigured to the agreed specifications. Project Longbow is at 97% readiness." Director Lai of Intelligence frowned slightly. The Cephalian analyst, Kreth, has been asking questions. Their species are renowned for pattern recognition. "Let him ask," Chen replied. "Our behavior has been consistent for 7 years. One curious analyst won't change the perception of an entire galaxy." The council members exchanged glances. What had begun as necessity, appearing non-threatening to gain admission to the Galactic Assembly, had evolved into Earth's grand strategy. For centuries, humanity had fought itself, perfecting the art of war against equally matched opponents. When they discovered they were not alone, they realized their disadvantage immediately. Most galactic species had thousands of years of technological advancement beyond Earth. But humans had one advantage. No one knew what they were capable of, and they intended to keep it that way until absolutely necessary. "The Vexari expansion won't stop at Proxima," General Rodriguez pointed out. "Intelligence suggests they're already mapping Earth's outer colonies for assessment." Chen nodded, "Which is why we need to proceed with Phase 2. The galaxy believes humans are diplomatic, weak, and technologically inferior. They see our peaceful overtures as the behavior of a species afraid to fight." "And when they learn differently?" Director Lai asked quietly. Admiral Chen's smile never reached her eyes. "Then they'll understand that our diplomacy wasn't born of weakness, but patience." On the edges of the Proxima system, aboard the Vexari command vessel Indomitable Conquest, High Commander Vrax reviewed the latest reports with satisfaction. The mineral surveys exceeded expectations, and the colonization timetable had been accelerated by 3 months. The human withdrawal was fortuitous, he told his command staff. Their preliminary surveys saved us considerable time. Their data was surprisingly thorough. Sub-Commander Krell shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps too thorough. They spent 5 years surveying before submitting their petition. Vrax dismissed the concern with a wave of his clawed hand. "Their technology requires time to compensate for its primitiveness. Our sensors have confirmed there are no human vessels or installations remaining in system, except for the 3 registered mining operations on the outer moons," Krell noted. "Irrelevant," Vrax replied. "Small-scale commercial ventures, operated by civilian contractors. They've been notified to complete their operations and withdraw within the standard cycle." Krell wanted to object further but knew better. The Vexari military hierarchy didn't reward dissent. Instead, he returned to his station, where he continued reviewing the human survey data privately. Something about their withdrawal bothered him. It had been too easy, too accommodating. The Dominion had annexed territories from 17 species over the past century, and each had responded with at least token resistance. Diplomatic protests, military posturing, economic sanctions, something to save face. But the humans had simply stepped aside. His unease grew as he pulled up historical records of human interactions in the assembly. They had conceded to the Meridian Collective over mining rights in the Tau-Ceti system, had withdrawn research stations from the Epsilon Eridani Nebula when the Draconis Empire claimed it as a religious site, had even rerouted commercial shipping lanes when the Azurian Concordat expanded their territory. Not once had they shown aggression or even assertiveness. Their military vessels, the few that had been observed, were primarily transport and logistics ships with minimal armaments. Their colonial expansion had been slow and methodical, focusing on uninhabited systems far from established territories. It was as if they were deliberately avoiding conflict at any cost. Yet something in Krell's military instincts that had kept him alive through 3 border wars, told him this wasn't the behavior of a naturally passive species. He had studied enough Earth history to know that humans had been anything but peaceful among themselves. His thoughts were interrupted by an urgent communication from the engineering section. "Sub-Commander," the chief engineer reported, "we're detecting anomalous energy signatures from the human mining stations." Krell straightened. "Clarify." "They appear to be powering down completely, sir. Not just operations, but life support, communications, everything." "Evacuation vessels?" "None detected, sir," the engineer replied, confusion evident in his tone. "It's as if they're simply turning off." Krell's unease crystallized into alarm. No mining operation would shut down without evacuating personnel first. "Unless, full scan of those installations, immediately," he ordered, "and raids our defensive shields." But before the engineer could respond, the viewport blazed with sudden light. Where the nearest human mining station had been, a fiery bloom expanded silently against the blackness of space. Then another flared, and another, all 3 mining operations transforming into expanding clouds of debris and energy. The deck beneath Krell's feet shuddered as proximity alarms screamed throughout the command center. High Commander Vrax rushed in, mandibles flared in alarm. "What is happening?" he demanded. Krell had no chance to respond before the tactical officer called out, "New contacts." Multiple signatures emerging from the debris fields. On the main display, small craft appeared where the mining stations had been. Sleek, dark vessels unlike any human ships previously observed. They moved with impossible speed, accelerating toward the Vexeri fleet. "Impossible," Vrax whispered. "Those aren't human designs." But they were. As the mysterious ships closed distance, Krell could make out the distinctive Earth insignia on their hulls, a stylized representation of their planet with a solitary lunar body. In that moment, Krell understood what the humans had been doing for 7 years. They hadn't been avoiding conflict out of weakness. They had been studying their future opponents, learning their capabilities, their tactics, their weaknesses, and all while presenting themselves as non-threatening, technologically inferior, and diplomatically pliable. They were never mining operations, Krell realized aloud. They were forward bases disguised as civilian installations, and we just gave them permission to build them in our newly claimed territory. As the first energy signatures from the human vessels locked onto Vexeri ships, Krell had one final, terrible insight. The galaxy had fundamentally misunderstood humanity. They weren't diplomats pretending to be warriors. They were predators pretending to be prey. The calculated strike. The Vexeri colony ship Dominant Ascension never saw the attack coming. One moment, it was proceeding with standard terraforming protocols on Proxima IV. The next, its propulsion systems failed simultaneously. Before the engineering crew could identify the cause, microscopic breaches appeared across the hull, too small to trigger catastrophic decompression, but numerous enough to vent atmosphere slowly. When the emergency systems engaged, they found themselves locked out by their own command protocols. The ship's AI, responsible for coordinating life support, had been compromised weeks earlier when it downloaded what appeared to be standard navigational updates from a human data packet that had been shared freely with all species. Across the Proxima system, the scene repeated with terrifying precision. 17 Vexari capital ships experienced cascading system failures. Engineering crews fought desperately to regain control while command staff ordered emergency protocols. But the humans had been planning this moment for years, studying Vexari technology, identifying vulnerabilities, and planting dormant code that awakened simultaneously. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen watched the operation unfold on the strategic display. Each Vexari vessel appeared as a red indicator, their statuses changing from operational to compromised one by one. She didn't smile or show satisfaction. This wasn't a moment for triumph, but for grim necessity. "First phase complete," reported General Rodriguez. "The Whispers have activated and penetrated all primary targets. 73% of Vexari fleet capabilities neutralized." The Whispers were humanity's best-kept secret, autonomous infiltration units disguised as standard maintenance drones. Thousands had been distributed throughout the galaxy over the past 7 years, courtesy of Earth's generous technology-sharing programs. The Vexari, like most species, had accepted them without suspicion, incorporating them into their own systems. "Proceed to Phase 2, Chen ordered. At her command, the true nature of the former mining installations revealed itself. What appeared to be standard habitat modules reconfigured, panels sliding aside to expose weapon systems unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Not the expected energy weapons that dominated space warfare, but something uniquely human. Kinetic kill vehicles accelerated to relativistic speeds by electromagnetic launchers. Simple, devastating. Impossible to detect until fired. Impossible to defend against once launched. The first salvo targeted the Vexari command vessels, striking with precision that left surrounding ships untouched. No explosions, no energy signatures, just hypersonic projectiles that transformed kinetic energy into destructive force on impact. In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Assembly, emergency sessions have been called as news of the conflict reached the Central Worlds. Representatives from 30 species demanded explanations, while Earth's diplomatic corps, conspicuously missing Admiral Chen, expressed shock and confusion. "We have no knowledge of military action in the Proxima system," Earth's diplomatic liaison, Dr. Sato, insisted. "Our mining operations were scheduled for standard shutdown and personnel withdrawal." The Vexari representative, a junior diplomat as the senior staff had accompanied the fleet, hissed accusations. "Your mining operations were weapons platforms. You deceived the entire assembly." Dr. Sato maintained an expression of bewildered concern. "I assure you, Earth has no military presence in Proxima. We withdrew peacefully, as witnessed by this very assembly." From his observation post, Kreth watched the diplomatic theater with newfound understanding. The humans weren't lying. Not technically. They had indeed withdrawn their acknowledged presence from the system. What they hadn't mentioned was what they'd left behind. The Cephalian analyst slipped away from the chaotic session, making his way to secure communications. His superiors needed to know what he'd realized. Humanity had been playing a game of strategic deception on a galactic scale. 3 days after the initial engagement, the Vexari Dominion sued for peace. Their losses were catastrophic. 14 capital ships destroyed, 3 disabled, thousands of personnel dead or missing. The survivors reported the same chilling story. The humans had never fired a shot until the Vexari moved into Proxima, but once engaged, they struck with overwhelming precision. In the hastily arranged peace conference on the neutral world of Terminus, Admiral Chen appeared not in her diplomatic attire but in full military dress. The contrast shocked the assembled representatives. Gone was the understated, deferential human, replaced by a commanding officer whose uniform displayed combat decorations previously hidden from galactic view. Earth regrets the necessity of military action, she stated to the Assembly of Galactic Powers. For 7 years, we have sought peaceful integration into the galactic community. We have offered friendship, trade, and cooperation. We withdrew from contested territories without complaint. We shared technology freely. Her gaze swept the chamber, lingering on each delegation. And in return, we were dismissed as weak. Our territorial claims were ignored. Our people were characterized as primitive, our technology as inferior, our military as non-existent. The Vexari representative, now High Commander Krell following Vrax's death in the engagement, stared at her with a mixture of hatred and newfound respect. "You deceived us," he accused, though his tone lacked conviction. "We presented ourselves accurately," Chen countered. "Earth values peace and diplomacy. We prefer cooperation to conflict. These are not deceptions, but genuine priorities." She gestured, and the chamber's display activated, showing a map of human territory, far more extensive than any species had realized. Small outposts, previously registered as scientific or commercial ventures, suddenly appeared as military installations forming a defensive network around Earth's core systems. "What we didn't volunteer was the full extent of our capabilities," Chen continued, "because history, both yours and ours, taught us that new species are either exploited or feared. We chose to appear unthreatening while we assessed whether the galaxy would accept us as equals." The Meridian representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, pulsed with agitation. "These revelations will destabilize galactic relations. Trust has been broken." "Trust was never extended," Chen replied evenly. "Earth was patronized, not trusted. We were allowed into the assembly because we were deemed harmless, not because we were respected." From his position at the rear of the chamber, Kreth watched the human admiral with fresh insight. The deception had been masterful, not because humans had lied, but because they had allowed the galaxy's prejudices to form a protective blind spot. Species that prided themselves on military might saw humans as weak because they didn't boast of their strength. Technological powers dismissed human capabilities because they didn't flaunt advanced weapons. And all the while, humanity had been silently preparing, watching, and waiting. "What are your terms?" Krell finally asked, acknowledging the new reality. Chen's expression remained impassive. "The Proxima system will be recognized as Earth territory, as originally petitioned. The Vexari Dominion will withdraw all forces and claims. Additionally, a demilitarized zone of 5 light years will be established between our territories. And if we refuse," the Azurian representative challenged, speaking for the first time. Chen didn't respond verbally. Instead, she nodded to an aide, who activated a secondary display. It showed hundreds of small signatures, Earth vessels previously unacknowledged, positioned near key worlds of every major power. Not threatening, not in weapons range, but present nonetheless. "The whispers," Kreth whispered, finally understanding the full scope of human strategy. "The maintenance drones, the civilian transports, the medical ships, the agricultural assistance programs, all had been dual purpose. Humanity had embedded observation posts throughout the galaxy under the guise of peaceful cooperation. They hadn't been preparing for a war with the Vexari. They had been preparing for a potential conflict with everyone." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Then, one by one, the representatives signaled agreement to the terms. Not out of fear alone, but out of a dawning recognition that they have fundamentally misjudged humanity. 6 months after what historians would later call the Proxima Revelation, the galactic landscape had transformed. Human representatives no longer occupied the lowest tier in the assembly, but sat among the major powers. Trade agreements were renegotiated, territorial boundaries redrawn, and military assessments drastically revised. Admiral Chen, now elevated to Earth's primary representative, stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above Proxima IV. Construction vessels, openly military in design now, patrolled the system while terraforming operations proceeded under Earth's banner. Director Lee joined her, looking out at the stars that now held new meaning for humanity. The deception worked better than we anticipated, he noted. 7 years of appearing harmless, and now the galaxy reassesses everything they thought they knew about us. Not deception, Chen corrected. Strategic ambiguity. We never claimed to be harmless. We simply allowed others to underestimate us while we determined whether coexistence was possible. And your assessment now? Chen considered the question carefully. Coexistence is possible, but respect is prerequisite. The Vexeri saw our diplomacy as weakness because their culture values only strength. Now they respect strength and will listen to diplomacy. The Cephalian analyst, Kreth, has published his analysis of human strategy, Lai mentioned. He calls it the silent predator doctrine. Claims we behave like Earth's apex predators, not revealing capabilities until the perfect moment to strike. Chen smiled faintly. An interesting interpretation. I prefer to think we behaved rationally in an irrational environment. When surrounded by potentially hostile forces, you don't announce your vulnerabilities or capabilities. You watch, you learn, you prepare. And when necessary, you strike decisively, Lai added. Only when necessary, Chen emphasized. The Vexeri forced our hand. Others have taken note. Below them, the first permanent human settlement on Proxima IV was taking shape. Not a military base, but a research center dedicated to xenobiology. Earth was maintaining its commitment to scientific advancement and peaceful cooperation, even as it demonstrated its capacity for warfare. The apparent contradiction confused many species, but it represented the fundamental truth about humanity that the galaxy was only beginning to understand. Humans valued peace not from weakness, but from wisdom. They sought diplomacy not because they feared war, but because they excelled at it. In his analysis, Kreth had come closest to the truth when he wrote, "The galaxy mistook human restraint for incapacity, their patience for fear, their diplomacy for weakness. We failed to recognize that a species which spent millennia fighting itself would not enter the galactic stage unprepared for conflict. They came bearing gifts in one hand while the other remained carefully hidden, not because it was empty, but because it held weapons they hoped never to use." On the Cephalian homeworld, Kreth completed his comprehensive assessment of the Proxima incident for the High Council. His final conclusions were being transmitted across secure channels to every major power. Earth's strategy represents a paradigm shift in interspecies relations. They entered galactic society not as conquerors or subjugated, but as observers. For 7 years, they absorbed our knowledge, mapped our capabilities, identified our weaknesses, and positioned themselves for multiple contingencies, all while appearing to be a minor peripheral species focused on trade and cultural exchange. Their technological capabilities, now partially revealed, suggest they pursued different development paths than most galactic species. While we focused on energy weapons, they perfected kinetic systems. While we built massive fleets, they created dispersed, autonomous networks. While we displayed our military might, they concealed theirs. Most significantly, humans demonstrated the capacity to maintain strategic discipline across their entire species for years, presenting a consistent, unthreatening appearance while simultaneously preparing for worst-case scenarios. This level of coordination suggests a psychological unity of purpose uncommon among galactic species. The implications are clear. Humanity cannot be understood through traditional paradigms of galactic politics. They are neither expansionist nor isolationist. They seek peaceful cooperation but prepare thoroughly for conflict. They share technology generously but keep critical innovations secret. In essence, they behave as precisely what they are: intelligent apex predators who prefer not to fight but will do so with devastating efficiency when threatened. This analyst's recommendation is to engage humans as genuine peers, neither overestimating nor underestimating their capabilities or intentions. They have demonstrated both the will for peace and the capacity for war. Which aspect of their nature predominates in future relations will depend largely on how the galaxy chooses to treat them. As the report disseminated through the highest echelons of galactic governance, humanity continued its unchanged behavior. Their diplomatic courts still sought peaceful solutions to interstellar disputes. Their scientific teams still offered technological assistance to developing worlds. Their commercial vessels still established trade routes throughout known space. The only difference was that now, when Earth spoke, the galaxy listened. In her private quarters aboard Earth's flagship Terran Resolve, Admiral Helena Chen reviewed Kreth's assessment with a mixture of amusement and respect. The Cephalian had understood what most species missed. Humans hadn't been playing a role for 7 years. They had simply shown one facet of their complex nature while keeping others in reserve. Chen opened a secure channel to the United Earth Defense Council. Phase 3 is proceeding as anticipated, she reported. Galactic perceptions have shifted from dismissive to cautious. Trade negotiations have improved by 47%. Territorial incursions have ceased entirely. And the long-term outlook? Asked General Takahashi. Chen considered the stars visible through her viewport. Thousands of systems, millions of worlds, countless species. Humanity had taken its first true steps into this vast community, revealed its nature, and established its position. Humanity's place in the galaxy is secure, she replied. Not through conquest or subjugation, but through understanding. They know now we've always been, not simply diplomats, not merely warriors, but patient hunters who observe before acting. She closed the channel and allowed herself a moment of pride. Earth had achieved in 7 years what many species failed to accomplish in centuries: respect without fear, influence without empire, security without constant warfare.